right, so another fight week for you. Give me your emotions coming into this one.
I'm excited. I'm happy. I feel good. For the last couple of fights, it was like a reintroduction to the 145-pound division, and so I was actually gaining weight in order to do it. And this time I was like, man, I'm fine the way that I am. I just want to be athletic and feel good, and so that's what I've done. And I feel way better coming into this fight than I have in a long time. I just feel good and healthy and athletic and excited, and it's time.
And you're coming off a loss to Arlene Blencow. Do you feel like you gained anything out of that experience? Do you feel like there was anything that you learned from that?
It's a reminder to never leave it to the judges. Freaking judges. I know that. I mean, I know it. Everyone knows you can't leave it to the judges, but it's easy to forget that sometimes, especially if you're like me and you're just having a really good time fighting and you just have fun punching people in the face. It reminds me that I need to really focus on the finish, and so that's what I'm going to do in this fight.
And now you're matched up with Jessy Miele, who had a very impressive last fight in Bellator. Did you happen to see it, and were you impressed by it at all?
I did get to see it. I think that she's a very well-rounded fighter, and I'm excited to see that it looks like she comes forward, and I think that she's going to bring out a very good and exciting fight, and I'm looking forward to that.
And I know, obviously, Chris Cyborg is somebody that you want to fight down the line. With the win here, do you feel like how many fights away are you from that fight with Cyborg? Do you feel like?
Oh man, that's a great question. I have no idea. It's not really anything that's in my control. That is always the hot question: is if you win this, are you going to get a title fight, and how far away from the title fight are you? Well, I mean, I've been hearing title fight since I signed with the division, and so it's not. I don't write the contracts. I just sign them. So all I can do is win the fight, and then we'll see what comes up in front of me.
And you were recently in the news for some of the online posts that you had about Dana White's appearance at the Trump rally, and I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts of. And I know you might not have all day for us here, but what was it that frustrated you most about seeing him up there with the president?
I mean, they're two birds of a feather. Like, that's fine. It's not as much that it even frustrated me or made me mad. It's just, like, they're obviously friends. That's what he went up there and stood and said, yeah, we are friends. This guy's really loyal. You wouldn't believe the stuff he does for me. And in my departure from the UFC, I had filed charges with the National Labor Relations Board, and we actually got a merit determination on those charges. The merit determination said that my claim that we were statutory employees and that I was retaliated against, that they thought that those claims were legitimate and that they were worth investigating. And the next step after they gave me that merit determination was that they were going to act basically as the prosecutor. The National Labor Relations Board was going to act as the prosecutor against the UFC in these charges. And I got excited and started sharing it all over the place. And then less than 12 hours later, the Division of Advice in Washington, D.C., under the leadership of Peter Robb, the general counsel of the NLRB, an appointee of the Trump administration, he commandeered the case and pulled back the merit determination, and then a couple months later they dismissed it. And the dismissal read like it had been written by the UFC themselves. And even though the NLRB is definitely not labor-friendly right now, it's not like they're making all these great labor-friendly decisions at this point, and then mine was just the only non-labor-friendly decision. Like, this is the trend that they're doing under the Trump administration, is they're making it more difficult for people to unionize and more difficult for those unions to collect money. So it's along the lines, but it's not very difficult to believe that some strings were pulled and that a good buddy of Trump's called him up and said, hey, my business plan is about to be It's about to get violated by the freaking law. Can you help me out? And so who knows, but seeing things like that and talking about the loyalty and how good of friends they are, it just makes me think, I think that is what happened. I don't have proof, but it is what I think is what happened. It was like 3 days after that decision that they took the belt to the White House and had some long dinner. And then it was right then, too, that, you asked the questions to get me talking. It was right then, too, that they made that video about Trump being a true fighter. The guy who had the bone spurs that kept him out of the military is the true fighter. I mean, I wasn't in the military either. I guess I'm just repeating things. But still.
Is there any type of challenge process that you can go back and try to get this to another governing body to look at, or is it just kind of like you have to start over again when you were talking about them kind of denying?
I did file an appeal, and that was dismissed as well. And I talked to some other labor leaders with the steel workers and Wilma Liebman, the former head of the NLRB under the Clinton administration, and the consensus at this point is that it's going to be really, really difficult to get any kind of labor-friendly ruling out of Trump's NLRB board. And so that's one of the reasons that currently Project Spearhead is more about being an educational entity at this point, and that in the future, when the political environment is more favorable for labor rights, then maybe something else will get done.
Okay, let's go back to your fight for the last question. When you go out there on Friday, is there any specific way that you see this one playing out, or are you just kind of keeping your options open, or what are you feeling for this one?
I mean, I'm ready for everything. In the last fight, I saw that she wasn't. She had a lot of confidence in the takedown, and that's why she had a lot of confidence in the striking, and so that's why I'm excited about fighting is people who have a lot of confidence in the striking, because I just love to punch people in the face, and it's a lot easier to punch someone in the face if they're trying to punch you in the face at the same time, and so that's where I know that I shine the most. I'm ready for any place else that it might end up, and we'll see.